I had remembered that the lock, the deadbolt on the back door of my girlfriend's house was kind of flimsy. We'd had an argument, and I went back to my apartment and started thinking about things. And I thought, I'm not finished talking to her. I came back to her house, a nice cottage type house that was kind of by Green Lake, one of the lakes in town in Seattle. I said, I want to talk to you. And she said, You're not talking to me. And then, of course, in the judgment, I looked back and really wondered, what was I thinking? I remembered that lock being flimsy. So I put my shoulder into it and broke the lock and came inside. While she was on the phone with her girlfriend, unbeknownst to me, the girlfriend says, I'm calling the cops because Dana said David just broke the back door lock. So I didn't know that. So we talked a little bit more. Apparently, the police were notified. I ended up solving things or resolving things, I should say, headed back to my apartment, not thinking much about it. I thought everything was fine. I said, I'll talk to you tomorrow. About an hour later, I'm in my apartment. There's a knock on the door. I look through the people, and there's two police officers. Are you David Brooke? We'd like to talk to you. I said, What do you need to know? We have some questions about what happened over at your girlfriend's house. Mistake number one, I opened the door and let them in. If I hadn't opened the door, they couldn't have arrested me, but I let them in. And by doing that, I was putting them in a situation where they could arrest me. We talked for a few minutes and they said, Well, we're going to have to arrest you and take you downtown. Then I get handcuffed and taken out to the police van. I'm already marginally to completely claustrophobic, and I'm in the back of this van with my hands handcuffed behind me. We're on the way to the downtown police station. I get there and I get put in a room with a bunch of people that are people I would hardly ever hang out with. I just can't imagine. It was a dark gray room, no windows, metal walls, one payphone in the corner, and the door that shut. So unless somebody came and opened that door, you aren't going anywhere. Another huge revelation. You're not going to leave this room until somebody tells you could leave this room. Hit me big time. Finally, I go out. Then we get the orange coveralls. I give them all my personal stuff. This whole time I'm going, What have you done? This is not like you. This is the first and hopefully the last time this would ever happen to me. So we go back and we get the orange coveralls, and I go into this big cell with about 25 or 30 other inmates, prisoners, detainees, whatever you want to call them. We're all in our orange jumpsuits, and there's one toilet in the center of the room for 25 people. So I finally can't find a bed. So I'm going to try to this is 11 o'clock at night. It's pitch black out. I'm going to try to get some sleep. Well, there's no place to sleep because all the bunks are taken because it's set up for about 10 or 15 people. I go lean down and see, oh, here's a place by the windowsill. So I'll sleep there. I sleep there. I get down there, and about 15 minutes later, I look up. There's a guy looking out the window, and his you know what is about 6 inches from my face. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the time I'm going to have to face down my biggest fears. Is this what happens in jail, for crying out loud? Well, fortunately, he looked out the window and then he moved on. I didn't get any sleep. The next morning, I wake up, you get a meal. Let's see, a couple of slices of Wonder Bread, a piece of bologna, and a carton of milk, I think was all it was. This whole time I'm going, What were you thinking? How could you have made this mistake? So as I go before the judge that morning, they release me. They say, We'll let you go tonight. Something about with or without prejudice. I can't remember. And then you'll have to come back at a later date for court. So I go from the judge, I come back. It's now 10 o'clock. I've been there 24 hours. And I'm looking at these people. And I remember a couple of times there was a payphone in there listening to a fellow inmate calling his apparent girlfriend. Once I get out of here, I'm going to come and slice you up. And you are not going to even know what hit you. And I thought, oh my God, this is like a bad dream. So Dave, you buddy, you got to keep pushing forward. You got to make peace with yourself that you made a big mistake. I never should have broken that lock. These jails are cement walls, cement floors, porcelain or not porcelain, stainless steel toilet in the center of the room, as I mentioned. I kept thinking, I'm living some sort of a nightmare, and I kept beating myself up. How did you make such a mistake? I remember thinking, just get through the next 5 minutes, get through the next hour, just get through it and buy the time as best you can. Finally, about 10 o'clock at night, I get let out of jail. They got my clothes back. They take all your possessions, of course, and put them in a manila envelope. And I get my watch and my keys and whatever else I had. I walk out into the fresh air And I think this is the greatest smelling fresh air I've ever had. I just made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, if not the biggest. And now I'm free to go. And you never really think about it when somebody puts you in jail, how you don't get to go anywhere until somebody tells you you're going to go somewhere. And I had to wait and wait and wait. When I walked out those doors about 10 o'clock at night, I'd been there about 24 hours. Not only did the air smell fresh, but at the first place I'm going to is a restaurant to get some breakfast or some hash browns. I'm thinking this is like the best thing to ever taste is freedom. I never forgot it. And it is indelibly etched on my brain. What's the lesson? This too shall pass. You have to have the ability to forgive yourself. It took me a long time to forgive myself, to make peace with the guy in the mirror and think, what were you thinking? And of course, you think about, well, you made the best decision with the information you had at the time. Well, that wasn't a very good decision to break that lock. And I don't know what I was thinking, but nonetheless, the decision had been made. It was a bad one. I'll never make it again. Learn from those lessons and just know that sometimes you got to break it down to just getting through the next 5 minutes, the next half hour, the next hour, whatever it is. And ultimately for me, it was 24 hours when I finally walked free. I don't want to ever be near a jail cell the rest of my life. The clanging of the steel, all of these high quality people that you're around, not the kind of people you'd be hanging out with to grab a beer. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, it taught me a lesson that is indelibly etched, as I mentioned before. But make sure you press forward. And probably the final thing I would say to think about wherever you are on your journey, just I think it was Winston Churchill. Don't ever, ever, ever give up. Everything gets better if you just give it time. And sometimes the old thing about the darkest hour is right before dawn. It's true, a dark hour, but I came through it. Now it's been 25, 30 years ago, and I made it through. It teaches you a heck of a lesson because after all, how do you appreciate up unless you've seen down? Make sure you don't ever, ever, ever give up. It'll pay off.